Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next installment, the long-awaited next installment of my Hunt Showdown Weapons series overview. Today, we're going to take a look at the Winfield 1873. This gun is one of the other starting guns that you're going to get in Hunt Showdown, and although I don't have all of them unlocked due to the fact that I keep prestiging, I'm still going to go through them today because, frankly, I can still look at the 3D view. Winfield 1873 is basically just the Winchester 1873, an extremely popular rifle back in this time period, late 1800s, and the second of quite a few models Winchester makes of lever action rifles throughout this time period, starting in 1866. The next one being the 1873, which is probably the most popular of them, at least back then. Coming out in 4440 Winchester. In this game, it of course is using compact ammo. All of them do, regardless of the type you're using. And after that, we have an 1876, 1886, 1892, 1894, which is, if you buy a lever action today, that is the majority of them are modeled after an 1894. Then we also have an 1895, which is a weapon that would be interesting to add in this game. You could consider the Centennial, although it's not really true, to be, in this game, to be something kind of similar to an 1895, shooting a larger caliber bullet, designed for military use. And then there's several others after that in more modern periods. But, like I said, 1873 is what we're looking at today. In the game, it's broken up between two different weapons, specifically. I have these officer carbines in here, just ignore those. The Winfield 1873C and the regular Winfield 1873. Frankly, the difference is essentially just magazine capacity. As we can see, the difference between them is actually exactly the same, with slightly less handling on the 73 just because of the longer tube magazine, but the real difference being the fact that one is a 15+1 capacity and the other is a 7+1, due to the fact that the magazine is cut off. We'll go into 3D view here. Magazine is cut off right here on the 73C, allowing for 7 rounds in there. Whereas on the actual 1873, we're going to see a 2 magazine that goes all the way down the length of the gun. This 2 magazine, of course, is right here, and is loaded via a gate loading mechanism right here. If we shoot the weapon, we can see its function. As you can see, the way the weapon is operated is you hold it right here. After a round is loaded into the chamber, you use the lever in order to load this. Auto self-cocking, so this hammer right here is what fires the gun, so you're going to pull your lever down, it's going to cock this lever back right here. As you can see, it's currently in the cocked position, and it's going to take a round from inside your chamber, lift it up with the lift mechanism, push it forward into the barrel, and if there was a round in there, also eject it while doing that. We can see that there. Let's look at it one or two more times here. As we can see right in there, this is going to be your hammer, or bolt rather. Not a hammer, it's a bolt. That's going to be coming back when you lift it up. This in here, you can kind of see as it comes up right here. That's going to be the gate that's lifting up the next round, which is just those rounds are pressed backwards by a spring. So there's always one ready to go. It's going to eject this round in your chamber right here, and it's going to bring up the next round and push it right in. Very simple system, very effective, and kind of leads to this being an extremely fast-shooting weapon for the time period. The 1873, the large majority of weapons are going to be single shot, things like the Springfield, and so this is going to be an extremely effective weapon compared to those, with much faster fire rate and an extremely large capacity. 15 rounds, although it'll take you quite a while to load back in, is quite a capacity at this time period. As far as sights are concerned, we have very basic style sights here. Just going to be a front post right here with a rear iron sight. If we look down the sights here, you can see it's not a super precise sight picture, but gets the job done. Once again, we just have wood furniture here, so there's nothing super special about this gun. It's pretty basic. Like I said, in real life, this is going to shoot a 4440 Winchester round. I don't have the exact ballistics on it, but it's a fairly potent round, out to a couple hundred yards. Certainly is not going to be a something you want to get hit by. In the game, the Winfield functions as a compact rifle that shoots very fast and is able to, good for engagements, out all the way. I mean, you can headshot, according to this, out to 95 meters. So That's pretty decent range, but you know, it's not look, if we look at like the officer carbine right next to it, 92 meters. So it's putting you at about pistol carbine style things, which is pretty relevant for the cartridge. The cartridge itself is basically a pistol cartridge, um, a little beefed up. So there's not a whole lot going on there. We can see in the game we have a couple different models. We have a silencer version here of the C. The silencer is in this game basically just a can, which frankly is an oil filter can or something of that nature. Probably not an oil filter, but um, you know, this is very basic early style thing. The sights on this one aren't so good, but you know, it's kind of what you get for sticking on this monstrosity here, and silences it fairly effectively. I think we have only one. Yep, looks like we only have one gun that actually is going to have a scope coming with it. The marksman scope on this is well done. The Hunt does a very good job of modeling out their sights, and back in the day, you're going to get a very not really too much actual zoom for the length of the scope. So I'm not sure what this is really going to be. Maybe a 4 or 3 times scope. But this is an extremely big scope for the little bit of zoom you're going to get. But that's just how scopes were back then. The glass is pretty clear, pretty well done. Another interesting factor of the game is if you melee with them, you're gonna potentially break your glass, which is very realistic. These are extremely fragile. Scopes nowadays are extremely pretty tough, especially the higher end you get. But back then, scopes were both very expensive and very fragile, very easy to break. So those are the three Winfield Mark 73 Cs that we're gonna have. They also in the game have some of these shorter ones. For the Cs, this is going to be called the Vandal. Basically, what we see they've done here is, I believe, still all 6 rounds only. I'm sorry. So what they've probably done is somehow they've reduced the capacity by one. I'm not quite sure what they've done with that. Potentially cutting off the magazine tube a little early. But they basically cut it off where that magazine tube ends, shorten the barrel there, and then also cut off your stock here. In real life, this would be a probably not actually as terrible of a weapon as it might seem like it would be. Your recoil on this round is not going to be all that significant compared to like a full rifle round, so you actually might be able to somewhat use this if you needed for some reason a gun that would be like this compact. You wouldn't want to use this buttstock. Probably, I think you'd probably just be running into trouble. So I would just try to hold it kind of like two-handed, you know, one hand around the back here to operate it, and the other one up front, and see what you could do with that. In the game, it's very unstable, as it should be. Poor handling, and you lose a little bit of velocity, which also makes sense. You're not getting the powder burn you would out of a full-length barrel, so you're actually going to have a slower bullet. And with that goes a little less damage, as you can see. One less round to load, so a little bit less, a little quicker reload speed. And less melee damage, and slightly less effective range. Once again, lower velocity, shorter barrel is going to lead to all those things. We have a Deadeye version of that. Deadeye scope in this game is very good, actually. It's a nice, these must be 3 times scopes, or something. Maybe that one's like more like a 6 times. Good scope, though. But once again, this gun is so unwieldy, it's almost a mistake to use. We also have the Vandal Striker. It's going to be your melee format. As you can see, they've left the back here, I guess, gnarled up, if you will, in order to be used as a weapon. And the front, they've added a saw, spike, bayonet style thing going on here. Very Hunt-like to do. But once again, functions the same in firing, just a little extra melee power. And then once again, going back, we have just the actual 73. The initial one, once again, we're just adding some bolts to it. The aperture sight changes our sight system over from just a standard front sight with this rear sight to actually giving us this right here, which is a precision sight for longer ranges. In real life, these are extremely nice, very good to use. In the game, I find it to be very difficult to use. You focus very heavily in the middle circle, which means that your peripheral vision is obscured. So I myself do not like them very much, but you definitely get some value with that if you can figure it out and become good with it. The Talon is once again another kind of a creation of Hunt, adding a bunch of spikes and stuff down here in order to, I guess, enhance the melee abilities. We also actually see it kind of interestingly, sort of modification to the stock, which is interesting. Potentially a way to maybe make it more comfortable to a user. It's an interesting modification that really doesn't add any damage to the gun, I guess, unless you're trying to put all the force into this area, but with all that there, I feel like you'd want to swing that way. Anyway, um, but anyway, that's an interesting addition to the gun. Once again, we have the Swift here now. The Swift is another Winfield as well. This one allows you, and you won't be able to show it right here, but it actually takes some tubes, you can see them right here, to quickly load the mechanism. So it takes your reload speed in the game from 16 seconds to 8, so halves your load speed because you're able to put in these chunks of rounds at a time. Very convenient. The last one here is actually probably the most interesting one to me. And I think the game even, oh, the game doesn't actually mention it, but this is going to be like the military version of it. So, well, if you will, this is going to be what they would call a musket version. And the reason it's called a musket is because it's of the styling on it. So this would be more like a carbine version right here with just a little stock right there. The musket is going to be full length with the wood stocking, allowing it to be a little bit more protected and more military-esque, I suppose. Although functionally it doesn't actually change anything, it just makes it a little heavier. And then once again, this one is going to come also with a military-style triangle. I believe this is a triangle bayonet. But once again, the actual function of the weapon, both in real life and in the game, is going to be basically the same, just a little bit heavier than in this one would be. You actually get increased or decreased handling, which makes sense because over the regular Winfield, which makes sense as this is a far more heavy weapon. And handling in this game is your sway and recoil and such, which this would have increased sway probably due to the weight, although it would actually reduce your recoil somewhat due to the fact that the weapon is heavier and it's going to kind of absorb some of that recoil for you. So anyway, that's the Winfield 1873 in the game. Like I said, it's a nice gun. A good, like I said, you get the 73 in the beginning. Good beginner gun. Later on, you unlock the 73 regular full length version. Still a good gun, and in the game you get perks like levering, which is where you would rapid fire the gun by essentially just working this handle as quickly as you could and pulling the trigger as soon as it came back up. There's some famous examples in history. There's a show called The Rifleman, if you've ever seen it, that someone has a modified version of one of these that every time the lever closes, it actually automatically shoots, which is interesting. Kind of a mechanic, I suppose, if you will, that people could do. Although I don't believe they actually made any from the factory that way. But it's something that someone could have modified. So you would just lever that as quickly as you can. And also in the game, they have a mechanic that allows you to stay in your scopes and to shoot a little bit faster when sighted in. So this gives a solid gun in the game, and in real life is an interesting piece of history. Very popular. The gun that won the West as is kind of the famous saying attributed to the 1873, and a good addition to hunt. So I hope that helped you learn a little bit more about the guns in the game, and stay tuned for probably in a year or so when I put out the next video. Have a good rest of your day.